Marc, a very good morning. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. So the situation as we speak, just an overview from you as to what's happening, especially in light of COVID-19 and lockdowns everywhere.
Huge challenge. I think more than ever, it's become crucial that we shine a light and a very bright light on the hunger and malnutrition crisis that we are facing in this country and on what needs to be done. There's no question that COVID is fueling an existing crisis, and frankly, I think it's turning it into a hunger pandemic that is robbing children and this country of its future and its potential. So we have to tackle the food crisis head on. The cost of inaction will be absolutely devastating. Recent reports are talking about millions of people going to bed hungry, 43% of individuals in this country going to bed hungry. It's staggering. And the irony is that, we live in a country that, is able to produce and to feed its population. We've had a bumper harvest. And the reality as well is, and something that we need to understand, is that food and access to food is a fundamental human right. This isn't charity, and yet COVID has had an incredible impact on our country, and it's just staggering to see the numbers that have been affected.
And that's a surprising thing, Marc. Like you say, it's not like we don't have enough food in the world to actually feed people. It's how we actually get this food to them. So at the end of the day, where is the sort of break in this? Who's not doing their job? What's not happening?
Well, as you say, this is not a supply issue. It really is primarily an issue of poverty and inequality. We know that we must recognize that the South African hunger crisis is actually everybody's problem because it's affecting the very social and economic fabric of this country. And so, yes, I think there's a number of factors that are at play, here. We've seen unemployment is at an all-time high. We've seen job losses of over 2 million people now. We've seen food prices increase dramatically. So these combine to create a perfect storm. We've got millions of people on social welfare grants, but grants are good, but they're not good enough because they don't actually address the actual cost of getting adequate food onto the table. And I think we also need to remember that social grants are not just there for food. We've got families that need to use that for a number of things at home. So it's not about supply, it really is about access.
Well, Marc, can we pinpoint specifically in South Africa where we are seeing the most number of people who are going without? Can you pinpoint sort of regions, cities, provinces? Are we able to do that?
Difficult to say, but I think what we're seeing is that especially child malnutrition is greatest in Gauteng, KZN, and definitely in the rural areas. That is really the epicenter of where we're seeing a lot of the malnutrition and hunger in our country right now.
So if we can identify that, why is it so difficult for us to take to them what it is they actually need?
Well, as I say, I think the challenge is that even though the supply is there and the food chains and the food supply during COVID has been amazingly resilient, I think there's a number of issues that we've got to look at. And again, it's about access to food, and we've got a large percentage of the population that just cannot access that food. And so I think we've got to look at ways of addressing this issue. I think the reality is that, for instance, as Hope or White, we work in the child space, in the early childhood development space, and child hunger cannot wait for a solution. Children need to eat now, and so it's absolutely vital that we look at a combination of solutions to address this very issue. And I think this is, as I said, this is everybody's problem, and I think we can all do something, whether it's small, where we're at, small food choices, small sacrifices, but all players in the economy have a role to play.
And
the consumer.
Especially when it comes to our children, you can't learn if you are hungry, and the impacts of that will go on and be devastating for years. Very quickly, a last word from you, Marc, is let's talk about those broader implications. What happens if we don't get food into the bellies, especially, like you say, of our children, because the roll-on effect there goes on for much longer.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just devastating to see that we live in a country where 27% of our children are stunted because of chronic malnutrition. So we've got to look at initiatives that assist getting food. You know, we're very fortunate to work with corporates like KFC's Add Hope initiative that has about 140 partners getting food out. And collectively, we've been able to reach or provide or close to 5 million meals to these children that desperately need the food. These are the kinds of initiatives we need to really make sure that we are protecting the most vulnerable, and that is the children.
Marc Aguirre, thank you very much for that. It is a matter of urgency. As you hear, it is World Food Day. It's not just a focus for one day. It's a lifetime of focus.